Hello and welcome to Simon Says Artwork. In this video I'm going to be doing some more thumbnail sketches in this university sketchbook. I don't know if you remember this page where I did 10 thumbnail sketches from the same study, from the same image, but I'm going to go on to the next page and do thumbnails based on different images, different stills of cities and blurred lighting. I'm going to do it in acrylic and maybe a few oil pastels as well, and even maybe watercolor. So all right, let's get started. Now when it came to making these thumbnails, it was a bit different from the first ones that I did on the page before that you can see, because these were, instead of being based on a photograph, which was the previous page was one still image, one photograph that I replicated 10 times. This instead was several different images that I'd got stills from a video, and I was hoping to capture blurred lighting. And it was on a road trip that my brother and I had taken across the Midwest of America, and we were in San Francisco, and I'd taken some video, and some of the still images from there I was trying to use to get interesting blurred lighting and nighttime colors, and just try to capture some of the movement. So these boxes were all quite small for the thumbnails, and using a brush, it's kind of trying to use the edge, as you can see there. What I start off with is the light green, because the next color is going to be much darker, so I'm going to basically cut into that color. So it's going to be much darker than the green, as you can see already. But if I put in the light color first, then the dark color can then start to build up the shape and work into that lighter color to make something which looks like a building and looks like a city scene. I quite like some of these thumbnails, and I was hoping to develop them into paintings for university, but what ended up happening for the third year, which is what this was for, is that my tutor ended up telling me not to do painting anymore, but instead to start making art films, because after the pandemic had happened, I wasn't willing to attend on campus anymore. I wanted to work remotely, which I was one of very few who did. And there were tutors who were infected and attending and transmitting that to students, and all sorts of bad things happening. And, student representatives who were boasting about not being vaccinated and then lying about it afterwards, and lots of things that I just think were really bad behavior. And I tried to do something about it, but it just doesn't go very far. So at the time, I was trying to develop these thumbnails in order to create larger paintings for a degree show, but it turns out that I ended up making an art film instead. I am going to post the 3 art films that I submitted for university in the first, second and third year, but for the time being, this is my work leading up towards what I was hoping to be a degree show of abstract paintings based on blurred lights and city scenes. And I quite like how some of the thumbnails worked out. I think that they were quite interesting looking images. It was just a shame to have to abandon it, and I wasn't willing to take paintings into university because of the risk of infection. I didn't want to get infected myself, and even if I was asymptomatic, I didn't want to infect anyone else or transmit it. I was trying to be as conscientious as possible, but it wasn't welcomed, and it's still quite an unpopular opinion. It seems that people just don't seem to react that way. That's how the first thumbnail worked out, so you can see it's really abstract, quite loose, but I quite like that. I think it tells you everything that you need to know. If anything, I've put more information in than you really need. And the same technique for the second one, because I liked how the first one worked out. I put in the light green first, or the mid green I should say, No, it's quite a light green actually. It's just, it's a bit of white, bit of water, bit of blue, bit of yellow. And then I got in the sky next, and then the bigger shapes, which is a silhouette in the foreground on the right, and then some of the large windows for the building, and started to build up some of this more purple colours. And I just like the combination of colours, and I like the fact that it's really quite loose. And if I hadn't described to you what I was painting, I think, you might be wondering what you are looking at, because it doesn't really look too figurative. There are certain parts of this, like what I'm painting now, which you might just not know what it is because it's not big enough to actually render clearly. And also, it was just trying to get a shape in there as opposed to trying to be really accurate. But yeah, some of the colour combinations I thought were quite interesting, and some of the compositions started to become, to pop out at me as things which I'd like to paint larger. So if there was another time or another school where I was studying and I was given the opportunity to paint and to not be at risk, or to paint and to submit work digitally instead of in person, then I would have followed through with doing large paintings. I'd already secured several large MDF boards to paint on, and it was just the guidance that the tutors gave you at the time. When I showed a tutor that I was painting on larger pieces of wood, they really responded well to it. But when I said to them that I wasn't going to bring the paintings into uni, they didn't respond very well, and they suggested I go a different way, which I think's a shame, but I do understand why they'd say that. But I do think it's a shame. I do think it's a bit unfair because of the situation that we were facing. But obviously everyone made their own decision, and therefore I was outnumbered, really. It's one of those things. Now that's already quite nice. I'm not sure if I had more. Yeah, I do, which is a shame because the white was quite nice there, but it wasn't really accurate. So instead I tried to cover the white with yellow, and it's not done too bad, but I quite like the white there, because it was quite minimal. But there we are. These small thumbnails, they're not perfect edges, as you can see. They're all little blobs and blotches in places, but that was the top few. I didn't film all of them, unfortunately, so as you can see here, it does just transition over to, there's several other squares done, and then on the third row I start to do longer landscape thumbnails. But it's from stills from a video, and it's a video which I didn't end up finishing, so I can't post that one, unfortunately, to my channel. And it was just trying to salvage some of the imagery from that film for work for the degree show. It turns out my film for the degree show was nothing like this at all. It was all quite different. But you can see that from some of those thumbnails on the second row, how some of the ideas for blurred lighting could work quite well. The top row is all, city nighttime scenes where the lights and the colours were starting to work quite interestingly, especially on the second from the left, or the one which is not purple on the top row. The first one where it's more yellow, brown, green and blue. I quite like that one, the fourth one along. And then this one, which I'm painting at the moment, was a real push and pull. I quite liked the first blue marks, and then the more I added, the less it looked like it. So I started to add more and more, and then I left it there. But then after leaving it there, I ended up actually going back over the top with oil pastels. So this became a mixed media strip of images on this row. And then the row beneath was mixed media as well. And the bottom row was turned out being watercolor. So yeah, it's quite an interesting page, and that's as far as I got. Okay, so that's the page done. Now, I didn't capture every part of the process, but I tried to get as much as I could on camera. So this is how the page turned out. I quite like it because it is a bit of a mixture of the acrylic at the top, bit of oil pastel in the middle and some mixed media, and then at the bottom we've got some watercolor, which is quite faint, but I still think it looks quite good, and I really enjoyed it. I like pages like this. I think they look quite nice, and it's something where you can really see things crushed down into such a small view, so that you can really evaluate what you like and what you don't like about the framing and the, you know, the composition and the color palette that you've used. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.